Welcome to the 1% Doctor Podcast. What separates the good from the great, the standard from the extraordinary? It's not just skill, it's not just knowledge, it's mindset, it's execution, it's the relentless pursuit of growth. And that's exactly what we talk about here on the 1% Doctor Podcast. I'm Adam Lamb. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the 1% Doctor Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Lamb. Today, very special guest. He's got a great story, great background to what he had some fear in, to what he actually overcame and how that's blowing up for him. Good friend of mine, Dr. Justin Moseley. Happy to have you on the podcast. You had me in your podcast originally, and which was awesome. And I think we just very like-minded, both brothers in Christ, and you're doing some great things. And I want to just bring you on because I think you have so much value to share to other docs listening, and then other people just looking to get value out of a conversation like you and I have. And so thanks for being on, brother.
Yep. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed our podcast with you on my show. So happy to be here.
Awesome. So give us a little background, like when did you realize you wanted to get into medicine? We'll talk about kind of the winding road of that and what led to where you're at today. But, where did it all start? Where did you decide, I want to go down this path?
Yeah, for me, this wasn't even on my radar. I grew up here in Nashville. My dad was a video producer growing up. So I used to go at an early age, I would go on shoots and get to meet country music stars and all the things.
Oh, so it was country music, video type stuff? Or
he had a video show, country music show, a rock show. So I was going backstage while I was doing interviews with different people. So I thought that was really cool. And I thought that's what I was going to do. I was actually going to college for video production. And then while I was there, I became a personal trainer. So I liked helping people. I liked fitness. And then at the time, my roommate was going to chiropractic school. And he started telling me about chiropractic and what that is. And ultimately, I think the whole thing is I'm just an entrepreneur by heart. I watched my dad build his business. So that's I just wanted to be an entrepreneur and build my own business. Yep. And then when I got to college, and then I was like, wait a minute, chiropractic could be a cool way where I could be an entrepreneur and build a business that way. So I ended up shifting gears in college from mass communications major to then having a major in pre-med, go to chiropractic school. So wasn't something that was on my radar until all of a sudden it's man, this is a great way to be an entrepreneur and build something great and help people doing it.
And I think, most of the docs I work with have that entrepreneurial heart, and they want to build something that kind of works for them, not necessarily that they work for as much. That's, I think the difference is that entrepreneurs, you can own a business and be the only cog in the wheel though. Right. And then you have to do everything, and that can, and that usually leads a lot of docs to burnout, and they move away from their mission because they're like, dude, this is a lot of work, versus that entrepreneurial of how can I build stuff where I can put my value into it that other people can extract, but I can also get some of my time back and help guide the ship versus actually have to drive the ship.
Yeah. And a lot of people have that mindset of, I want to build something. I want to be the entrepreneur, but they just have this work hard mentality. And that just turns into, I do everything. And then that leads to, like you said, people are burnt out. This isn't what I signed up for. I wanted to build a business, but I ended up just building a job. And I was there at first, and I was like, man, I got to shift this thing. So I started putting myself in different masterminds and putting myself around people that thought bigger, that showed me a different path. Because I was there, man. Early on, I was like, this isn't what I signed up for.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. I love that you touched on that because it's hilarious. I had a buddy of mine recently. He's like, man, I'm just looking. He's like, I need some mentoring or need some coaching. And I'm like, what do you think? I was like, what do you think you're willing to invest in yourself for a year? He's like, I don't know, maybe $2,500. And I'm like, how much would you like to grow your income? He's like, probably 500 grand. And I'm like, well, do you think you can grow $500,000 in your income and only spend $2,500? You're going to be disappointed.
Yep.
I don't want to be in the $2,500 a year room.
Right.
Probably need to be in at least the $25,000 a year room if you want to grow $500,000 in income, because you got to get around those people. And I was explaining that even at my Bible study this morning. I was talking to people paying 50 grand to be in proximity of other people. There's a level of seriousness, right? the room of guys that pay 50 grand a year to be in a mastermind, for example, like they're usually 7-figure player. They're doing stuff, they're making moves, and they're serious about themselves. I even saw
Mhm.
a video by Tony Robbins yesterday. He was saying like he was talking to Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett said the greatest investment he ever made is investing in himself. And it's
Mm.
crazy.
Yep.
Listen, I was there too. I'm sure there's a time in your life where you're like, dude, I'm not paying $500 to be in that, seminar.
Yeah, right.
And then you become not a junkie of it, but you just realize like the ROI. I can look back at stuff where I've spent 200 grand to be in different masterminds and groups and coaches, but I can look back at it and it's 10x its
Right.
value because what you learn and the proximity of people and deals that get done and all these other things. So I want to highlight that because I think a lot of doctors don't value it. It's like, dude, you'll go spend $500,000 in medical school, but you won't spend 12 grand to be in a mastermind. Like it's insanity, especially when there are people that are everybody in there is doing what you wish you were doing. It's like, dude,
Right, yeah,
what are you
and it's
doing?
gotta have that mindset shift. It's not an expense. It's not like I'm spending this money.
Right.
It's an investment. I'm
Yeah.
investing this money in what's possible because sometimes it's one conversation. It's meeting one person in that group who thinks bigger and helps you level up. It takes you to a whole different level.
Yeah. Someone's just like, hey, Justin, have you ever thought of doing this, this, and this? And you're like, $500,000 idea. Right. And it's just like, that's worth it. Right. And it's wild. So I'm glad to hear you say that. I want to touch and hit on that because I think oftentimes a lot of docs that listen to this don't see the value in just spending money. I had a buddy Saturday. He's done really well, but I had another friend of mine in town, a guy that actually I coach was in town, and he wanted to spend time with us. He flew, he's got his own jet, right? Flew on his own jet from Fort Worth down here just to have dinner with us, to spend 5-6 hours together, to get back in his jet to fly back home. Probably cost him 2,500, 3 grand, whatever, 5 grand, I don't know, round trip. But he saw the value in just spending that time. We're talking about our walk with the Lord. We're talking about business moves we're making in 2026. And he's like, dude, I want to be in on that. Right. And so he gets it. Like he's a guy that's going to invest in himself. But it's interesting, especially people that have, I understand if you're making 50 grand a year, it's hard to spend 10 grand. But if you're making a few hundred grand a year and you want to get to that few million a year, like you're going to have to spend some money to get there. And I think all the greats know it, but I just wanted to pause and emphasize that because it changes your trajectory. It did for me, and obviously it did for
Yeah,
you. When
absolutely.
did you going into that, when did you start investing in some of those things?
I'm trying to think back early on, even in chiropractic school. I remember I had the mindset I'm going to be successful. So I'm surrounding myself. I'm going to meet other doctors. And I went to a friend of mine who's became a mentor of mine. And I asked him, I was like, what do I need to do now to be successful? And I thought he was going to give me some sage business advice. And he goes, the number one thing, invest in yourself. And he started showing me books to read. He started talking to me about mastermind groups and different things to be a part of. So the conversation with him of invest in yourself changed everything for me. Because I was
Mm.
always thinking about the things I had to do. Like, what do I need to do versus who do I need to become? And fast forward to last year, I think it was, I got to interview Dan Martell, who wrote Buy Back Your Time. We were
Awesome.
talking about that. Yeah. And again, that's putting yourself in bigger rooms. You
Yeah, I
connect with
paid
different
10 grand
people.
to go up there and be part of his seminar, and I got to have dinner, and he just sat right next to me, and I got to spend an hour and a half a day in looking at my
Yeah.
coaching program, right? Like, look at
Absolutely.
that proximity, that was it was worth 10
Opportunity.
grand.
Yeah, yeah,
Sit right next to him and
absolutely.
talk to it.
Yeah, and what thing he talks about all the time is the person who achieves your goals isn't who you are today. Because if you
Mhm.
were already that person, you already would have had all the things. So it's all one is we got to figure out what do we want, but then figure out who do I need to become in order to achieve that. And that's where it's leveling up with coaching, masterminds, putting yourself around other people shows you a different picture of who you can become.
I love that. And you mentioned the books where you can, those watching a video behind you is a bunch of books. I'm sure you read all or most of them.
Oh
Same
yeah.
thing behind me is a bunch of books.
Yep.
And that was a start, and I think for some people, it's like, if you're not even willing to invest $10 in an audio book, I can see why you wouldn't, or you got these, I could joke with people. It's like step one's buy the book. Step two is read the book. And so, oftentimes we get this information, we don't do anything with it, and realizing like sometimes that's where you got to start. I think picking up a couple good books to just get your mind flowing in like this what's possible path.
Right.
And then from there is like take action. And sometimes that taking action is being part of the mastermind. What do you think if you had a top three? Do you have a top three books that you would recommend?
Yeah, well, it actually goes back to the original question you asked me. I was like, when did I start investing in myself? And normally I have it right here, but I'm actually reading through it again. Was when I was 16, I actually got Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within.
It's right, right there, right there
Yeah,
behind me.
yep. So yeah, I had that because I was struggling with self-confidence, self-esteem. I ended up in the self-help section, and for some reason I saw that book. I don't know why, because the thing's like 600 pages, but I saw that book and I started reading it. And he talks about how in a short period of time he read like 700 books. So that inspired me to start reading and just reading a ton of books. And really, the biggest thing from that book was just like, if you change your mind, you can change your life.
Yes.
And that's where it becomes reading the books, meeting the people. I mean, connecting with people like Chris Zano. He's the guy that connected us. It was like you
Yeah.
just meet people along the way, but it's always this. And I think it goes down to it's the principle of reaping and sowing too. It's like I'm not doing it to get something out of it, but the more I invest in myself, it's planting the right seeds, and I'm going to reap the harvest from that.
Yeah. And those seeds, then you have a chance, we'll talk about your TED Talk that's got over 1 million views, but then you become a bearer of fruit. And
Mhm.
then your ability to contribute, which is one of the greatest things that we're looking at. And Tony talks about that a lot in his stuff of like, then we have the chance to give back, right? We have to just like when I think of, my number one doc last year, I helped start a company. They did 18 million last year.
Yeah.
Year one, right? Another one of my docs went from 680 grand was the highest revenue to 2.7 last year. So it's like my ability to pour into myself, like, yes, I was compensated by a relationship, but even greater than that is my ability to pour into myself has allowed me to grow to a place where I can help other people produce fruit too, right? So those seeds that get planted create a harvest, and that harvest continues to feed other people because then we can share that information too, right? So
Yeah.
there's a part of it when you see like, I have to get better so that my relationship with my wife's better. I have to get better so my kids get better. I have to get better so, for like the stranger I might run into tomorrow, and then I have to have the courage to pray for them or give them what advice, something like, I don't know what it is, but if I'm not pouring into me, I'm going to be empty and I won't have that stuff. And so I think there's another part that's even greater of seeing the value of pouring into ourselves so that we can be a greater version of ourselves to give and to contribute, which is also part of that sowing and reaping process.
Yeah. And then back to your question about the books. And I'm a big believer is like, what season are you in? Because if you read a book right now, if you read Hormozi's $100 million leads, but you don't run a business, then that book's not going to mean anything to you.
Right. Agreed.
But for me, I guess the biggest game changers was Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, Think and Grow Rich. If anybody hasn't read that, read that one. And then I really do buy back your time from Dan Martell, because it's just that mindset of, man, you don't have to do everything. You can put the people in place and get your time back. We were talking before we even jumped on this. Like now you've bought time back that you can actually invest in your community. And I think how cool that is. So one, investing your time better in your business, but then what else can you do with that time to make a bigger impact?
Yeah. And it's not about making more money. It's just about serving more, and the money follows, right? When you're mission focused, the money will follow. I think too often we get, and I've done the same thing in my career of like focused on money, and it's just a lot of work. But when you're focused on the mission, like the money just starts coming in and you just double down on the mission and the money
Mhm.
keeps showing up. And then that fulfillment and your, influence and all this stuff just continues to grow, and it's powerful. But again, it all, you got to unlock that somewhere. And I think people listening, like, if you're not in a room, and even my Bible study today was about coming together as believers and like being part of Bible studies or mastermind, like, because, at the church, we'll go to church on Sunday and check the box, but like, what are we doing outside of that? Are we actually getting together? Like the iron sharpens iron. I have
Right.
a little thing I go on to, like, iron sharpens iron isn't like two people going, "Hey brother, how are you?" No, iron sharpens iron. It's immense heat, smashing metal together.
That's
Like
right.
it should feel like that, right? Like, and some people I think are uncomfortable about being vulnerable, right? And so like we can talk a bit about that. And they're uncomfortable about expressing like where they fall short, uncomfortable expressing like, I'm uninterested in being in these environments or masterminds where everybody's like, flexing, right? Like, oh, I got this, or I do this in revenue. What are you struggling with? Because that's where we all get better. Because the thing you're struggling with, there's probably 4 or 5 other guys that are, and then we can all learn together. And that's where I think massive growth happens. And so I think the first step too, and this maybe you can relate to it and share when this happened, is when you realize, like, I don't know everything. how can I help? Asking people for help. It's crazy. I'll have a mastermind and there'll be people that never raise their hand, never have a question. I'm like, dude, how do you not? And it's like, they can't even raise their hand because they're scared they're gonna sound dumb or it's a stupid question. And it blows my mind. I've never been like that. I've been like, okay, I love sounding stupid. If that's the case, whatever's gonna help me grow.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, it sounds like you grabbed that early in chiropractic school.
Yeah, and speaking of asking specifically, because another one, Jack Canfield's been a big influence on me. So I read his confidence CDs. I actually had the CDs back in the day. We had a CD player, a Walkman. Well, I guess it's Discman it was.
Oh,
It
this
had like
man.
10 seconds worth of skip. Man, it's totally different now. Everything's on our phone.
I don't own a CD player.
I know, right? So I was listening to his CDs and he talked about asking and just the power of asking. And then his partner, Victor Hansen, even just recently wrote a book called Ask and just the power of asking. And for me, like that's been a game changer. Like when I go to events, like I'm writing down stuff when the speakers are talking, like what questions can I ask them? And then I find them offline and we talk about them because that's the time. Like you don't, they talk about you have not because you ask not. And that's so true in so many aspects. But people just ask the questions, they'll find out. Even people like Dan or different people, like they want to help people. You got
Yes.
people that have access to you. Just ask the questions. You're there to serve and to help them, but people are too afraid to ask.
And it's biblical. Ask and you shall receive. And believe. And the other part is believe as if it's already been done. There's
Yes.
another belief system, a part of it that I think two important things in that right there. I think it's in Matthew that Jesus talks about when he's like, number one, ask and you shall receive. Like some people just won't ask God, right? Like
Mhm.
they're like, hey, I just appreciate, what you're doing. I'm blessed. And I'm like, but what do you want? He said, what do
Mhm.
you want? You want to be healed? You want to see again? What do you want? I'll do it. And then the other part is like believing it, even though it hasn't happened yet. And it
Right.
will, right? I'm sure like when you talk about your TED talk that got 1 million views, like there was a time when you're like, it's like you saw the 1 million views, I'm
Mhm.
sure in your heart, in your mind before you got them. And then it's like, all right, 10 million, billion,
That's right.
like, how do we, and when it
Yeah.
happens, you're not going to be surprised because you're already believing for it. It's just a time, it's a season, right?
No, that's exactly right. Because I did that TED Talk in 2024. In 2023, I actually had the opportunity to do it, but I said no, because I really just wanted to pray about like, God, what is the message you want me to share with the world? And he's the one that revealed it to me. And like it showed me that vision of it's going to have 1 million views before I even delivered the talk.
It's
Because it
awesome.
was something it wasn't from me and not my agenda of what I want to put out, but it was that message that God put on my heart to share. And then he just blessed it.
Yeah, that's powerful. And that's, I think my life verse is Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of God, his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. And again, going back to like, God, what do you want me to do today? Before I leave my bed, I sit up, pray. I'm like, all right, Lord, you gave me another day. Got another breath. Who am I? What's the conversation I'm supposed to have? Who am I supposed to serve? Like, get my heart right so I see it. Because if I'm focused on myself, or I'm focused on scarcity, or I'm focused on all the things I think I need to do, I'll probably miss what you want me to do. And that's where I think a lot of times we miss the communication with God. And so going into you get out of chiropractic school, and what did you do? Did you start a practice right
Yep.
out of the gate?
And my wife's a chiropractor as well. So we started a practice here in Nashville, opened our practice in 2012. Fast forward to 2018, and we built a great practice, helping people, making a difference. To August 2018, I went on a men's retreat and we went whitewater rafting. And it was just a freak accident. We hit some class 5 rapids and our raft tipped over. I was sitting on the back of the raft and I got thrown off and then trapped underneath the rapid itself. And it started pushing me underwater. I still remember the sound of my helmet scraping down the rocks as I was being pushed under. And the last thing I remember thinking is, I'm not coming back up. And I ended up getting wedged between two rocks, lost consciousness, everything went black, and then everything went bright white. And it was the most peaceful, serene feeling I'd ever felt. And I don't know how long that lasted, but I heard a voice that said, wake up. And thankfully, I did because I came back to consciousness and I was wedged underwater or wedged between two rocks underwater, tried to push, and I didn't budge. And I kept pushing, like nothing was happening. And then finally, my adrenaline kicked in. And I was able to push hard enough that I broke one of the buckles that was underneath one of the rocks, the buckle in my life jacket, floated to the top, got swept down the river. And man, at that point, I was rocked. Like, what just happened?
Mm.
And we all question our purpose in life at some point. Like, why are we here? What's the purpose of all of this? But in that moment, I asked a different question. I said, why am I still here?
Yes.
Because things could have been different in that moment. Like, what if I didn't hear wake up? Or what if I wasn't strong enough to break free? So I was like, why am I still here? Like, I know God's got me here for a bigger reason. So I started contemplating that. And one of the big things was that I'd gotten comfortable in my life because business was good. We were
Hmm.
helping people. We were on a mission. We were making money. We were traveling, doing the things. But what God revealed to me is I was playing way too small.
Yeah.
And if I truly want to step into the calling that God had in my life, I need to exchange my comfort for my calling.
Yes.
So that was one. And for anybody listening too, like, unfortunately, we wait for something big to happen, whether it's a loss of a loved one, or maybe it's a near death accident, or something happens where we start to contemplate life. But you don't need a near death accident. You don't need a rock bottom moment in order to change. Like, change happens in an instance. And you can ask yourself the same question I asked myself is, why am I still here?
Yeah.
Because
What
life
is,
is a gift. Yeah, you didn't have to wake up today, but you did.
I think of the story in the Bible of the fig tree, the year 3, right? Where
Mm,
the landowner is telling the gardener, he's like, rip it out and throw it away. Like, I
that's
feel like
right.
that's where I was before coming to Christ. And
Yeah.
this book, I'm reading it again this year, this Jesus Calling book someone gave to me, and it like opened up, it just like hit me, man. Like, I wasn't a believer. And all of a sudden it just, through that book, God showed me like there's something way greater than you just out here making money and trying to like, you know, live this, go through this life. It was the biggest game changer for me of having that new experience. So I'm like, all right, God, what do you want me to do? And I just didn't know any better. Just, almost out of fearful of just, I'm calling God into everything I do because there's a greater purpose. We're not just here to, I would say, like, eat, sleep, and have sex. Like that's not the reason we're alive, right? There's something more to it, and earnestly seeking that. And to your point, you don't need a near death experience every day. I'm like, God, just, hey, nudge me, bro. Give me a little nudge. I don't need a car accident. I don't need something crazy. Just a
Right.
little nudge. Like, and that's where I think being open to that Holy Spirit of like, what are we doing today? I'm
Yep.
listening because I don't want
Absolutely.
to get hit by a ton of bricks because I got so distracted in production or performance, versus service and contribution. And that's, yeah, you don't need to almost drown in a river to have that figured out.
Yeah.
So you come out of this, you're contemplating like, what am I doing here? Why am I still here? What kind of revelation did you receive?
Yeah. One of the big lessons I learned was because I asked myself, like, if it all would have ended in that moment, if that would have been it, is this the legacy I want to leave? And the answer was no. And that still drives me to this day. Like, I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize I could have done more. I could have helped more people, or I could have made a bigger impact. So that's what drives me. And so but I didn't know what that looked like. I was like, okay, God's called me for something bigger. So I was just trying to process, like, okay, God, what is this? And I kind of was in that season of just show me. And he just revealed to me, like, put yourself out online. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was not on social media. I wasn't doing anything, but I went back through like what I'm passionate about, from mindset, leadership, personal development, sales, business, all the things that I'd studied, all the books I'd read for years. I was like, man, I'm just going to take what I learned and put it out there, see if it'll help other people. So January 2020, I started a Facebook group, and I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to listen. I'm just going to start showing up. But 1,000 people joined my group in the first month. So I
Wow.
was like, okay, people are here. And that bloomed from there, man. I started getting offers to come speak at events, and I started running my own mastermind retreats and doing coaching and different things. I think the biggest reason it was successful is because I didn't have an agenda. I was like, I'm not
Mm.
going to put myself out to build a business, and what can I sell, and what's the funnel, and how am I going to get them into this? And it was like, no, it was just, I'm just going to show up to serve. And because of that, people wanted more.
And that stuff can come afterwards, right? Like to
Yeah.
monetize something. I did same path. Same with me. I'm a bit more particular and strategic with the funnel now, in
Yeah.
the sense of, but like we talked about earlier offline, was like, but because building that financial fence around you and your family of like, hey, if X money's coming in, like, we're good.
Mhm.
And if X amount of my time is freed up, dude, I'm here to serve,
That's
whatever it
right.
might be, whether it's politics, is the latest thing God's called me into, but also just other things that I want to just pour in other people, right? And so like when I'm not chasing money, so many people, I think, physicians in my experience that I work with, they're in this place almost of not scarcity because like, but not abundance. They're in this place of like, performance. I have to perform. I got to do this. I got to do this stuff every day because I have to pay bills and do this and do this and do this and support my lifestyle versus taking a step back into what you said earlier that I think is super important. And it sounds like you got to it of like, what do I actually want? Because when I'm doing what I want, it's a lot easier than doing what I have to do. And so when do you think you had that moment and how that kind of worked out, doing more of what you wanted versus what you felt you had to do?
I think is when and it's something I do all the time. I'm constantly asking, what do I want? Because
Because it evolves.
there's new evolutions of me and who I am and what I'm doing. And it's funny. And I'm sure you could ask your docs that you work with, most of them, when you ask them what they want, they can't tell you.
Oh,
They'll tell
yeah.
you the things
It's
they
like the
don't
hardest
want.
question in the world. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, so what they don't want, but and I don't, it's weird, man. It's like, it's something, and that's part of, I think, where the coaching stuff comes in that's so valuable. And you've probably seen that is like helping give them permission to talk about and pursue what they actually want. Because we do go through life doing what we're told, sometimes to not get in trouble, sometimes to get the grades, whatever to be accepted, to be connected, to feel loved, like, like a basic need thing. But really, we not like, what do you actually want?
Right. Yeah. And
And
that's
then
the
realizing you
hardest
can
thing.
have whatever you want more
True.
today than ever before.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I think the permission is a big thing because they think I have to do it this way. This is the way. And that reminds me, because I talked about Jack Canfield was an influence. Well, I got to interview Patty Aubrey, who is like the brains behind the Canfield organization. Like she helped build Chicken Soup for the Soul to $1 billion brand. And her mom was actually, she told a story on my podcast that her mom was dying of cancer. And when she was on her hospital bed, she told Patty, she said, you need to quit hiding behind that man, talking about Jack Canfield. She
Mhm.
said, you have permission. You need to go and put yourself out there. And so she actually wrote a book called Permission Granted and talked about her stepping out from just being behind the scenes and just promoting Jack to, no, I've got books to write. I've got talks to give, and giving herself the permission to, you know what, it's time for me to step up.
Yeah. Because we all there's a voice of like someone that may not connect with Jack, but might connect with her instead. Like,
Absolutely.
I talked about that today too in my Bible study. Like we're the body of Christ, right? Like, some people there's people that might talk to me and I can share my relationship with God that will never listen to a certain pastor. They'll never like, we're called to all be that version God's called us to be and continually improve that version, every day. Like we're called to die to ourselves and grow and recreate who we are every single day, if possible. I believe continue to kind of chase down that greater version of ourselves.
Sure. Or in the coaching world, it's like, yeah, you got Tony Robbins out there, but most people can't pay millions of dollars a year to be coached by him, but they can pay tens of thousands to be coached by you and get more touch and get more actually change because of the access they could have from you. And it's like it's like these things that you're going to put out are going to resonate with people in a certain way. The same for anyone here. Like there's things that you have right now inside of you that are the answer for somebody else.
Yes.
And I talked about that in my TED Talk. There was a quote that I shared from Rory Vaden, who's one of my mentors. He said, you are perfectly positioned to serve the person you once were.
Yes.
Think about that. There's lessons you've learned. There's things that you've been through that right now somebody else is going through that. You can take the lessons you've learned and help them along the way, which kind of goes back to what you were saying, like all the personal development, the growth, the stuff that you've done. Now you can just take that and help other people walk through it. And you can relate to them even more because you've walked through it yourself.
Yes. The guys I was just talking about over the weekend that were in town, one of them just did a private equity deal with his roofing company for like 16 million or something like that. This guy was in rehab 7 years ago. Another guy who he sold a company for like 20 million and then got into gambling, and it was a successful gambler. Like the most he won in one hand was like 3 million. But then he started going down the path, drinking, sports betting, and ended up losing all of his money because he had a non-compete. He didn't know what else to do other than that. And just win, and like lost it all. And then like now he's rebuilt. He's got another, $50 million company again. And his goal is to take it to 250 million. But we were talking about that because neither one of them coach right now, but they're talking about it's on their heart to serve and lead. And like, we're talking about, like, just to your point, is like, there's somebody you can help, right? Even before I got into the coaching, when I quit drinking alcohol, and that's my first book I wrote was Better Than the Binge, Overcoming the Social Obligation of Alcohol. And so first I had to put myself out there and say, hey, look, I had alcohol was a challenge in my life. It was something that was gonna lead to my demise. It wasn't gonna help me grow. And look, on the surface, like marriage was fine, making a few hundred grand a year, like had a business, like I was all right. But I'm nowhere near. I mean, I'm 10x where I was in that state with a vision of a massive trajectory versus where I was there was just kind of going through the motions. But my ability to be vulnerable and something that I struggled with, share it, and that's why I put it in a book, 'cause I didn't really know, any other way to do it. I wasn't again, it wasn't about the money. You don't get rich writing a book, but, if you think of writing a book, you don't get rich writing a book. But unless maybe you're Tony Robbins, you can get more rich writing a book. But if you don't, I wrote the book as an opportunity to help other people, and I've helped thousands of people change a relationship with alcohol or remove alcohol because of it. But that ability to be vulnerable and help others just led to a path of like, yeah, I may have not solved all the business problems yet. And at that time I wasn't like a Christian, but when you get it and you're like, oh wait, there's always a group of people, an older version maybe of myself that I can inspire or lead or something like that. And then as you continue to work on yourself, like you said, there's more ways that you can help people. There's more things you can solve, then it's just this constant thing of as I get better, I can help more people. And as I help more people, it's just going to benefit myself and everything else right around me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you mentioned, it's service. That's what it is. And that's where any business I've started was based on two things. One was Jesus didn't come to be served, he came to serve. So if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. And the other one was a Zig Ziglar quote: you can get anything in life that you want if you help enough other people get what they want. So
Yeah.
again, just service. And when you serve people, the byproduct is the money. But the cool thing about it, when you do it for the heart of service, there's more joy, there's more peace, a lot of other things that come than just being so focused on the money. Things are falling apart, marriages are getting destroyed, all these things are happening because you're not doing it for the right reason.
Yeah. And that's a part of the money can be a trap. Just, you can get even with the coaching of like working with one-on-one clients, higher ticket, successful. But I'll never forget a buddy of mine. I don't know if Andy Elliott's a good friend of mine. I was like, yeah, so I'm doing this. He's like, look, man, you are so good that you're going to get maxed out with one-on-one clients. You're going to hate your life because you won't have any time. He's like, you have to figure out a way to share your wisdom that you can monetize it that doesn't eat up your time. And I didn't realize at the time I wanted to create a bunch of video training which is like the structure of the course that I created. So I can go sell this course for $1,000, which is easily tens of thousands of dollars worth of value. It's 25 hours of all the stuff I teach my one-on-one clients, all the structure framework. And at the same time to do that. So then now I have this course that can go help, because, if it's 50 grand a year to work with me, the amount of people that can do that's less versus $1,000 or, to get all that information right there from me. I'm training, teaching. So then there's more people going to be helped. And also I get more of my time back. And so then that leverage switches of like money's being made, people are being served. I'm getting more time back. I can go pursue other areas of service. Right. And it's when you, but you'll miss it if you're just, oh, I got to go get this. And then the money I got to get the money and build the thing. And it doesn't work that way. And I've been blessed to where the coaching thing isn't really about the money for me. It was just about service and sharing. So I have other businesses in the healthcare space that support my income, but the money will follow if the if you're focused on the mission first
Yeah.
and the influence and all the things, whatever it is your heart desires, God put it there. If it's righteous, he's going to help make a way for that to come to fulfillment.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just made me think of one of the other quotes that I shared in my TED talk was fear disappears when the mission to serve is clear. So one, mission, you've talked about mission a lot, and you've talked about serving. Fear, we get trapped in fear. Like I had crippling fear of public speaking most of my life. Then I realized, man, if I could overcome that fear, what's the impact that I can make? So I went on a journey to overcome my fear, but fear disappears when the mission to serve is clear.
Yes. I love that. How did you overcome the public speaking part of it?
Yep. So one, it was making the decision because I'm a big Tony Robbins fan and I watched him and how he could just influence people from stage. I was like, man, I wish I could do that. So I turned that into one, modeling, which I learned from Tony Robbins. So what if I modeled the way he uses his body and the way he tells stories? And I looked at some other speakers, Jack Canfield, people that I looked up to. What if I started modeling them? So that's one of the first things that I did was, okay, in my mind, I started visualizing it. And the power of visualization is huge. I think we might have talked to that when you were on my show. I started visualizing myself being on stage and visualizing myself delivering an amazing talk and people clapping and giving standing ovation and just things
Feeling
going
it,
really
right?
well.
That whole, like I was saying, like believing it as if it's already done is there's a part of like connecting it to our nervous system. And Tony
For
talks about
sure.
emotionally, like, oh, I feel what it's like to get that offer on my business. I'm feeling what it's like to get that sale or whatever it might be. It can be as small as or as big as you want it to be.
Yeah, and then it was like because I would get anxious and I would start my hands would sweat, I would shake, like, almost had a panic attack in college in a speech class. So, I almost failed the speech class because I had a panic attack, and I remember thinking then, it just anchored into my mind, "Public speaking is not for you. Leave that
Hmm.
to other people that are good at it," and I continued to believe that lie for a long time until I realized, "Man, this is the one thing that's holding me back in my business." Like, if I
Hmm.
can learn to speak, how many doors can that open up? So, one, I had to make it bigger than myself. Like,
Yes.
what is the impact that I can
That
make?
is, and that's like, I want to stop you there. Like, you have to make it bigger than yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
That is foundational key for transformation of your life is when the mission is greater than yourself. The
right,
mission for you to get rich is not a mission. The
for
mission
sure.
for you to impact a ton of people, right? Like my mission today is like, when I die, I want millions of people, at least 1 million people can be like, that dude affected my life. Like that
Yeah,
dude positively changed my life. And that
absolutely.
requires that it becomes how you think, like you talked about thinking small, like you can't think small and help 1 million people.
That's right.
You can't do it by accident. It's gotta be intentional, and it has to the mission is must be greater than you. So I love that you pointed that out, and it's
Yeah,
so important. And it's one of the easiest things to unlock once you get it that people can't get past themselves. Think how
right.
selfish you are when I can't do it, or how am I gonna do that, or what's the cost of that, or here's the overhead, and well, I gotta hire this person. Like, all you're thinking about is yourself, dude.
That's right. Yep.
And so, like,
Yeah.
when you unlock, how do I help more people? And you just reverse engineer it, I'm gonna figure it out, right? And you see it that way. It's a game changer.
Yeah, and then I looked at too. I was like, well, what happens that makes me so nervous? And I started thinking about I get in my own head of what if they're going to judge what I have to say, or what if they don't like the sound of my voice or the way I'm dressed? And I realized like all those thoughts were about me.
Mhm,
And when I reversed it, I was like, well, what's in it for them? When I started focusing on them, and I was like, if one person takes what I have to say and applies it to their life, it can be
mhm.
a game changer for them.
Yes.
That one little mindset shift just changed everything because I was like, I'm no longer concerned about myself. I'm like, they don't care anyway. All they're thinking is, what am I going to get out of this? So if I can deliver something powerful that could change their life, that's what I get excited about. It's like, man, even if just one person takes this and applies it, it can be a game changer.
Now, when it comes to the public speaking part, do you find yourself doing a lot of prep in your speech? Are you like a line by line follower, bullet point guy? Like, give me some tactical stuff that you do from a talking standpoint.
So yeah, and it's evolved because now I've done a lot of speaking and I love just podcasts. Let's just riff. Let's just let it go. I like speaking at events. I speak at a lot of mastermind events because then it's not a canned speech. It's just like from the heart. You can ask questions and just be real. But I think for a lot of people, they need the structure of it because one of the hardest things about speaking is not knowing what to say. So if you don't have the ability to just to riff and just go, then that'll make you really nervous because you're like, okay, I'm going to get stuck and I'm not going to know what to say next. So I think for a lot of people, you need the structure, you need to practice it, you need to get good at it. But then the more you do it, the more podcasts you're on. If you have a podcast, you're interviewing people and you're talking all the time, then it becomes easy. Then you can just look at the bigger points. Is for most people, one of the best things in speaking is stories. People
Yes.
learn through stories, but the problem a lot of speakers make is they just tell a story without a clear point and a clear action for the audience.
Yep. I was just going to say one of the key things of learning to, because like both these guys that were here at my house, one was talking, one guy's talking about finding his brother overdosed dead. His had to carry his stepfather out of a house who overdosed. His found his sister dead. I mean, he's got some dark stuff, but
Yeah,
people are listening. Like, dude, you got someone's attention. And we're just like,
absolutely.
I went to the nail salon and they didn't have my nail color. No one's listening. You're talking about, I found my brother died of an overdose, and that's what checked me into a rehab. Like, people are listening. Or my buddy, the other guy was talking about gambling. He's like, winning $3 million or sending private jet to Fort Worth to pick him up to fly him out to Vegas, like giving his wife $1,000 gift card to go shopping to keep him at the table. Like people are interested in that story. So it's like, and that's one of the things we talked about Saturday when the three of us were together, is like getting really good at telling stories is half the battle, I think, because people want to listen. And then your ability to take that story and land it on a point so that people can, because you're sneaking it in, you're sneaking the point in through
Right.
entertainment from like, here's the 3
Yes.
steps of how you're going to have a better life. People, there's like a defense. People don't want to be told what to do versus let me tell you a story about me or a situation or somebody or experience. And then at the same time, you're, implicating this next step or this piece for them to connect to.
Yeah.
And that's powerful of
Right.
storytelling, I think, is like you said, because, you don't have to have a podcast or anything, or you don't have to like go talk at church or do something like that. Like you can start with just, dude, practice telling stories to like people. Be the
Right.
chatty, annoying
It's
guy
your
that like,
phone now. You can just pick up your phone and talk to it and have access to thousands of people through social media.
that's one of the things I'll have a lot of my docs do before they go spend money on marketing and creating ads and doing video. I'm like, talk in your phone for 90 days.
Yeah.
Cause you suck today and
Yep.
you're going to suck like we all do. Like, but in 90 days, you'll be better. You'll
Right.
learn better. You'll learn to, if you can, you got a minute, 30 seconds or whatever to squeeze that thing. Like you start understanding that you get your talk. And I think when I stepped into politics, because I had the reps of creating content, I had the reps of doing that stuff, it was so easy for me, like public forum or asking, I'm like, bring the question, let's go, let's go, let's go. And and again, I would tell stories, right? People ask questions and I might not know the full answer, but I know I can tell, I can give you a political answer by telling a little bit of a story,
Yeah.
creating emotion and connection and like giving them a little bit of an answer. But at the end of the day, my goal of that was I want to get them to like me and believe in me, right? Where I might not have I don't know, sorry, I don't have the 500-page research paper to review to give an answer on, but I can give you an answer and a story to likely get them to connect with me and feel like they're heard, entertained, and leave that engagement feeling more favorable towards me, which was part of the goal, right? And so
Yeah.
there's unique skills in that. I think that How to Win Friends and Influence Others by I think it's
Mhm.
Dale Carnegie. That's a great book.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Understanding like how people, how they think, how they listen, what's important to them, all those kind of things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the big premise of my TED talk was I believe everybody has a message to share. So you don't have to have a near death accident. You don't have to sell a company for $20 million or find your brother in this or that. Maybe you struggled with alcohol. Maybe you went through a divorce. Maybe we all have things in our lives that are story worthy. We just don't take the time to think through our life and be like, what can I share that can help someone else? And I think a lot of times people have that fear because like, I don't just want to talk about myself. Well, you're not talking about yourself just to say, hey, look how good I am. No, it's like, what story do I have that can help somebody? And then when you take that, start with that mindset, okay, then now I'm going to tell the story from a frame of what are they going to get out of this?
Yes.
And because what
And that's
most people,
important. There's a
yeah,
lot of people that like to tell you every single thing that happened in their life, but they have no frame.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes they're a really great story and like can get a standing ovation. Like that's great for you, but what am I going to do with that?
Yes.
So we can
Like
take a great
framing how
story.
you tell the story.
Yes. And then
And
make
that's
it for
a
them.
skill. You got to learn that. I mean, do you think, is there a book you'd recommend? Because I was actually looking to that specifically of like becoming a better storyteller. Is there anything off the top of your head that you can think of that's a book?
Not off the top of my head. So Rory Vaden is a mentor of mine, and he runs the company Brand Builder. So he's got some really good stuff. Actually, I would recommend watching Rory's interview with Ed Milet for anybody listening here. It's a masterclass.
Greatest storytellers of all time.
Yeah, yeah. So Brand Builders helped Ed Milet launch his last book. So Rory, his interview on Ed's podcast is a masterclass of storytelling.
Wow.
So he's basically walking you through a webinar on Ed's platform. So all the questions that Ed tees up to Rory, they're already sent those questions ahead of time to walk through his signature message. So you can basically look at it from that frame of, I'm going to diagnose what this guy just did, because by the end, you're excited. Like, I've got a message to share. I need to go hire this guy. So he's one of the best. Like, and he was, I think he came in the second in the world championship of public speaking. So he's he's a very decorated speaker. He's in one of the youngest, I think the youngest person inducted in the Speaking Hall of Fame. So a lot of credibility speaking wise.
I'll check that out. I mean, there you go. Look, I got value. I learned something from the podcast. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Um, that's great wisdom and knowledge. Anything, I mean, we're kind of getting towards time, and I wanted to see, anything specific that you want to plug, we'll put everything in the show notes, but anything you want to share, anyone listening that can kind of hunt you down, follow you on social media, check out your TED Talk and other
Yeah,
things.
absolutely. So follow me, Dr. Justin Moseley, at everywhere. That's where I am. So on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, at Dr. Justin Moseley. But the main thing, if you guys would help support my mission, is getting my TED Talk out there. Like Adam mentioned, it crossed 1 million views right at the end of the year. So that was pretty awesome for that, to see the impact. I think one of the last comments I've seen recently was, I'm watching this from Ghana or something. Like, the people from all over the world are watching, and it's pretty cool to see, because I just knew, like, God had me on the mission to share this, and I just want to share it with the world. So I think no matter where you are at speaking, I've had speaking coaches that are actually using my talk, and they're breaking it down with their clients because of the way I've structured things. So I think any level, whether you have a fear of public speaking or you're already a speaker, I think there's things in there that you could learn from it. But ultimately, I believe everybody's got a message to share, and I want to help people to find their message and share their message with the world. So if you just go to YouTube and put Justin Moseley TED Talk, you'll find it.
It's
It's
awesome.
called How I Overcame My Fear of Public Speaking.
And Moseley is Moseley.
Yep.
And it's a reminder, and I have this conversation with a lot of the folks I work with too, is like, listen, you're all teachers, you're all trainers, you're all speakers, you're all coaches, you're marketers. Eliminate any story of, I'm not good at anything, right? Well, you can be good at, you may not be able to make it in the NBA, but you can still figure out how to shoot some 3-pointers. Like there's anything you decide you want to become at. And that's where I think someone was asking me, on my birthday, I just turned 46 a couple weeks ago. And a guy asked me, he's like, hey, what would you advise your 20 year ago version of you? And I was like, wage war on yourself. Find out where those vulnerabilities are, find out where you're weak, find out where you're insecure, and wage war on that. Change that. Too often we want to stay in the place of where we're strong, right? It's maybe you're really fit, and like all you focus on is being fit, but you're like, your finances are a dump, your relationship is in the tank. Like, go wage war where you're weak, right? And so like you did that with yourself. You're like, I'm not good at public speaking. You're like, I'm not listening to that story anymore.
That's
and
right.
then you wage war, and then here you are, like, crushing it, which is amazing. So this has been a really inspirational podcast. It's awesome to see you. I love talking to you. I love watching you and everything you're doing. You're an inspiration to me. So thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being a friend, and thanks for being another brother in Christ that's out serving and doing it, focused on a mission that's greater than yourself. So I appreciate that. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I always enjoy my conversations with you. So appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We'll put everything in the show notes, all your social media and everything like that. Since the people at TED Talk,
Awesome.
keep sharing that and getting that out there. Thank you all for hopping on. This is the 1% Doctor Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Lamb. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone that you think could take some value from it. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the 1% Doctor. Please be sure to subscribe to the show, where you're able to consume more podcasts, get more value, and learn more about doctors potentially just like you. Please tell a friend, review the show, and we'll see you in the next episode.